Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is my great honour to present to the Parliament the budget for the 2016-2017 fiscal year. This is the first time the budget has been announced at night, and it is being carried live to people's homes over our free-to-air TV stations, FBC and Fiji TV. And Madam Speaker, for the first time the coverage includes a sign language interpreter for the hearing impaired, which can be viewed on FBC. Madam Speaker, as a government we are acutely aware that many of the people are still reeling from the effects of tropical Cyclone Winston. As every Fijian knows, we have directed most of our resources over the past 4 months to the cyclone relief effort and the task of rebuilding our nation. Whether it is through the Help for Homes initiative or the distribution of food rations, your government is working hard to meet the immense challenge we are presented with on 20th February this year. And that effort, Madam Speaker, continues across a broad front in the announcements I will make tonight as we redouble our efforts in this budget to get Fijians and our beloved Fiji back in the feet. It is also our intention, Madam Speaker, not just to present a budget, but to present a new step in the path forward to a long-term sustainability, economic growth, and effective responsive government. No annual budget stands alone, Madam Speaker. Each budget should be seen as a step on a journey into the future as we meet basic needs, plan for growth and change, confront new challenges, and embrace and provide new opportunities. And we are determined, Madam Speaker, that this is a journey that all of us will make together with no Fijian left behind. Most of all, Madam Speaker, tonight we would like to talk about the ways the government will empower people, particularly the most vulnerable and most forgotten. Madam Speaker, we are talking about our fellow Fijians who have been left back or held back by poverty, have been marginalized and kept in the shadows by a disability, or beaten and preyed upon because they are women or children. We will outline the boldest effort any government in the region has ever made to bring disabled citizens fully into the mainstream. This year, as you know, we again held public consultations on the budget directly with Fijians all over Fiji. We wanted to hear what they had to say. We also went a step further and for the first time held direct consultations with high school students and persons living with disabilities. There are thousands of ideas, creative solutions, and unique perspectives on problems in our country, and government needs objective input from the ground on what problem it needs to tackle, whether it's a matter of bus companies taking money from children with vouchers when we know that they shouldn't be, or taxi drivers refusing to pick up disabled people. We have had good, frank and open discussions. It was gratifying to exchange views with people who care deeply about our country, who could give insight into how others and their government affects their lives, and who, at the end of the day, were more interested in what was best for Fiji and their fellow Fijians. Madam Speaker, it was particularly gratifying to engage with our 12th and 13th year students who are on the verge of entering university or the workforce. They are our future leaders, and every decision we make will affect them profoundly. So government wants to hear them, and we want to take their views very seriously. And this budget contains a number of provisions that are designed to help prepare them for the day when they will become job seekers and also job creators. Certainly we have had to talk about priorities in these meetings, because no government, Madam Speaker, can accomplish everything it hopes to accomplish all at once. Funds for all governments are limited, and neither do we have the manpower or woman power to accomplish everything that needs to be accomplished in Fiji all at once. We have to face economic realities in our national budget and perform the same balancing act that people perform with their family budgets. For example, Madam Speaker, in one of the consultations, a student told me that the road to her school and village needed to be paved with tar seal, and they also needed electricity. I told her we might not be able to do both all at the same time, so I asked her what would she prefer to have first, and without hesitation, Madam Speaker, she said electricity. In making these decisions, Madam Speaker, we must be guided by equity and fairness, but also be enabled by the need to make sure that urban, rural and maritime communities are all served, and by a commitment to put government's resources to work for as many people as possible, with no group unfairly disadvantaged or advantaged. And of course, we are also guided by the need to ensure that everyone in Fiji lives with dignity. As the honourable members of Parliament know, this budget represents a departure from tradition in Fiji because we have changed our fiscal year to run from 1 August to 31 July, our financial year. As we have stated, Madam Speaker, we did this for 3 reasons. To ensure that we would be able to spend the taxes we collect at the end of the calendar year within the financial year. Secondly, to avoid the disruptions and inefficiencies that inevitably occur during the December-January season. And to ensure that our budget is not hijacked or rendered moot by the need to respond to the tropical cyclones that inevitably hit us in the cyclone season from November to April. The new financial year, Madam Speaker, will give us better predictability, greater budget security, and a much stronger ability to manage public funds. Still, this budget would look remarkably like the budgets of last year and the year before it, were it not for the need to respond to Winston. It is important, Madam Speaker, for governments to be serious, consistent, and predictable, and not to lurch about changing priorities drastically from year to year. Of course, the government must have a vision, which we do, and it must stick to it, which we have and intend to. Our businesses, our people, and our international development partners need to know what to expect of us over several years, and we need to give them a stable platform for planning, growth, and confidence. That, Madam Speaker, is what we are doing. And we intend to do better, Madam Speaker. So from next year, ministries will prepare 3-year and 5-year budget submissions that will allow us to make better plans, use government finances more efficiently, and attract more international development assistance. These plans will be flexible, of course. A government cannot have rigid multi-year budgeting, but it must have a clear sense of where it is going and how it intends to get there. A single-year approach to budgeting cannot address the needs of our people, nor ultimately can it be taken seriously. Madam Speaker, the approach must not be one device as we have seen in the past, and is still true for some quarters in our society. As I present this budget, Madam Speaker, it is not my intention to review the detailed programs of all ministries, or go line by line through departments and state enterprises. Instead, Madam Speaker, this will be a much shorter presentation than in the recent past, and I only highlight some of the key priority areas. And we will make summaries for individual ministries available to the members of the public from tonight, on the government Facebook page, on the website, and the entire budget estimates, Madam Speaker, will be available online as it was last year, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we have also provided one-page summaries or two-page summaries for each of the ministries based on the 4 sectors, which will be available to members of the public as they step outside of this Parliament, and also, of course, available online. Madam Speaker, rest assured, government's commitment to infrastructure development, national security, education, health, agriculture, and the other essential government activities continues unabated. Of course, the honourable members of Parliament will go through the detailed figures in the estimates and debate them when we meet next after tonight. Madam Speaker, we have achieved steady economic growth over the years thanks to consistent, controlled and expansionary policies with a vision that have supported strong activity in all sectors. We have achieved this despite natural disasters that have affected the performance of the agricultural sector, damaged infrastructure, and disrupted the service sector. Despite these challenges, Madam Speaker, government had reprioritized its development programs, and we have managed to sustain a remarkable level of growth for the last 7 years. The Macroeconomic Committee estimates our economic growth in this calendar year will be 2.4%. IMF predicts it will be 2.5%, and ADB predicts it will be 2.7%. But we believe that our economic growth will be somewhere closer to 3%. Cyclone Winston will have a ripple effect through the economy and has negatively affected agricultural exports and even dampened tourism arrivals for a period of time. But it has not been enough to prevent the economy from growing at a respectable rate, Madam Speaker. Fortunately, we have a sound recovery program in place, and so we expect our growth to be broad-based and sustained. We are bucking the trend in the world economy, which has been volatile and somewhat sluggish. We Fijians are resilient and optimistic people, and will take more than even the most powerful tropical storm ever in the southern hemisphere, and the second strongest ever in the world, to deprive us of the strong and healthy future we have planned for ourselves. The Fijian economy is expected to grow by 3.6% in the calendar year ending December 2017 and 3.2% for 2018. This will mean we will enjoy 9 consecutive years of economic growth, the longest period of growth, Madam Speaker, in Fiji's history. Because the fiscal year no longer coincides with the calendar year, Madam Speaker, it is important to note that the Fijian economy is estimated to grow by 3.1% under the new 2016-2017 fiscal year and 2.8% for fiscal year 2017-2018. Foreign reserves, Madam Speaker, are currently strong and expected to remain stable, enough to fund in excess of 5 months of import cover. And despite the effects of Winston on some prices, we expect inflation to remain at a manageable 2 to 3%. The Fiji National Provident Fund has played a major but largely unheralded role in Fiji's economic performance, and its strength was a critical factor in our response to Winston. The Fiji National Provident Fund allowed members to withdraw $1,000 in post-cyclone assistance and up to $5,000 for quick repairs assistance. The FNPF has paid out $276 million to 180,000 members under this cyclone assistance. Despite this massive payout, Madam Speaker, the FNPF will credit its members a higher interest rate of 6.25% compared to 2015. This, Madam Speaker, this strong financial position of FNPF, Madam Speaker, has only been achieved because of the reforms implemented under the Bainimarama government a few years ago. The reforms adopted by the fund have produced an extremely sound investment mechanism for Fijians and an important source of investment for the nation. This was recently, Madam Speaker, again reconfirmed by third-party actuarial assessments. Madam Speaker, as we chart and execute our recovery, the international community has come together to assist us, in part, of course, for humanitarian reasons. But beyond immediate humanitarian concerns, Madam Speaker, they also want to help us stay on the trajectory we have established. Our economic policies have shown results and have won the praise of international financial institutions, development partners, private investors, and economists worldwide. So helping Fiji is not just a humanitarian aid, Madam Speaker, it is also a bet on this country's future, and with a very favorable odds too, we might have, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, government has prepared a budget for 2016-2017 with expenditures of $3.64 billion, a projected revenue of $3.18 billion, a deficit of $468 million, Madam Speaker, or 4.7% of GDP. The need to pay for Winston recovery is largely responsible for a deficit that is higher than we had anticipated. But we also know, and so do our development partners and multilateral development banks, that we have no choice. And it is a trend that all countries that have had a climatic event such as we did must have an expansionary policies in order to recover the economic growth it has lost. We must do, Madam Speaker, whatever it takes to rebuild our infrastructure, our homes and our economy, and get Fiji back to normal as quickly as possible. In fact, had it not been for Winston, Madam Speaker, our projected deficit would be around 2.7%. Government has been very prudent in its management of the economy, and this is part of that prudent management, knowing when it is necessary to assume debt because the alternative is intolerable. This deficit, Madam Speaker, is truly an investment in Fiji's future. And Madam Speaker, the ministry that manages the robust economy, the Ministry of Finance, will change its name to the Ministry of Economy come 1 August to reflect a more comprehensive approach to our economic well-being, and which sits with our reform to create a modern civil service. Madam Speaker, I will now talk about the tropical cyclone Winston rehabilitation and reconstruction. Madam Speaker, we all know the devastation we suffered from Cyclone Winston. 44 lives were lost, Madam Speaker, and our thoughts are with the families who lost their loved ones. Damage, Madam Speaker, was caused in all 4 divisions, and 250 schools and more than 30,000 homes were severely damaged or destroyed. The post-disaster needs assessment compiled by the World Bank, it was a joint effort by the World Bank, the European Union, United Nations, and the Australian Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, put the total damage bill at 2.8 billion Fijian dollars. Tropical Cyclone Winston rehabilitation and reconstruction, Madam Speaker, is our highest priority for the coming year. And we have pulled the government together with private sector groups like the Fiji Institution of Engineers to be one team, dividing up the responsibilities to make sure we can rebuild and recover as quickly as possible. We wish to acknowledge and thank the support of all those engineers of the institution who work tirelessly to carry out the professional assessments free of charge, Madam Speaker. One of the lessons, Madam Speaker, we've learned is that it is not enough to simply rebuild. We have to rebuild in a way that will withstand high winds and torrential rains. We should look at this rebuild as an opportunity as well as a challenge. An opportunity to bury electrical lines underground so they cannot be blown over, to learn how to live in areas that can be prone to flooding, and to use advances in structural engineering to build buildings that are designed specifically to withstand high winds. Government's immediate responsibility was to tend to the needs of the Fijians who were affected by distributing food rations, temporary shelters, medical supplies, and other relief materials throughout the country. But we had to shift quickly to recovery, to getting people out of the temporary shelter and back to their homes and villages, back to their livelihoods and the lives they had built. We remember always that while Winston recovery is a national project, it is also a deeply personal matter to every Fijian who has been displaced, whose life was shattered, who lost a loved one, or whose future has changed forever. It may take a few years in some parts of the country to bring economic activity and growth fully back to the way they were before Winston. And government may, according to the disaster recovery framework, have to spend as much as $730 million directly to fully restore the Fijian economy. That, Madam Speaker, is in addition to expenditures by the private sector, individuals and aid partners. In this respect, Madam Speaker, we will repair damaged schools, relocate families in hazard-prone areas and develop sustainable disaster resilience settlements. While we have no legal obligation to rebuild private homes, the single largest expenditure that has been to help to rebuild homes was done by the government. So many Fijians were in such great need that government simply had to act. We began quickly with the Help for Homes initiative, which was launched by the Honourable Prime Minister and which is a critical tool for reconstruction. Government has spent $88 million to assist people in the areas most directly in Winston's path, including in Koro, Taviuni, Southern Vanuatu, Ra, Tavua, Ba, Lotoka, Tailevu, Ovalau and Vanuatu. The initiative rests on government's firm belief in the wisdom and energy of the Fijian people. We have allocated, Madam Speaker, another $20 million to continue the Help for Homes initiative in the 2016-2017 fiscal year. We will repair and strengthen critical infrastructure such as roads, jetties and bridges so that we can continue to deliver basic services such as education, health, water supply, sanitation and electricity. We are getting significant support from both aid partners and Fijian corporations and other institutions through initiatives like Adopt a School program, but much of the burden will fall on government, Madam Speaker. So far, 38 Fijian schools have been adopted. Only yesterday we were informed that the Indian government would like to adopt 30 more schools. Finally, Madam Speaker, we will work to build resilience. That is to strengthen the ability of both our local communities and our natural environment to withstand future disasters, including training for all age groups on how to build back better. The figures tell the story. In total, $207.9 million is provided for rehabilitation works. And indeed, Madam Speaker, we have an allocation in the Ministry of Provincial Development where we are allocating funds and getting trained carpenters to go out to villages and other rural areas to train people as to how to build back better. And as mentioned, Madam Speaker, we need to partner with our development partners to engage in more adapted infrastructure rebuilds, such as underground cabling of electrical lines. Under the recovery plan for schools, Madam Speaker, the government is very keen to repair school buildings as quickly as possible so that children can return to classes and regain the sense of normalcy, security and predictability that are so important to children's lives. A total of $142.6 million is provided to rebuild and repair all education facilities. Government has accepted requests for lead consultancy proposals from consulting firms to begin the design phase of construction works, and construction contracts for school and health facilities that will be progressively awarded will commence in the next few weeks. In addition to the 38 schools adopted through the Adopt a School program, government has allocated $132 million for the reconstruction of the neediest schools, the 250 schools that were severely damaged or completely destroyed. We have also allocated $5.2 million to rebuild 43 damaged primary school boarding facilities and upgrade or rebuild 95 damaged early childhood centers. I should say early childhood education centers. Regarding the Winston recovery pertaining to sugar, agriculture, fisheries and forestry, Madam Speaker. Sugar, agriculture, fisheries and forestry, Madam Speaker, are pillars of Fiji's economic growth and major sectors of employment for the Fijian people. An allocation of $17.1 million is provided to support rehabilitation efforts for non-sugar sectors as part of the Ministry of Agriculture's allocation of $74 million. Those funds will be used to repair and rebuild damaged agricultural offices and quarters, $1.5 million, to replant some 500,000 coconut trees, $250,000, to rebuild seawall and irrigation structures and drainage systems, $179,000, and to develop dalo, $500,000, and yangona crops, $651,500, and rehabilitate crops in severely affected areas in the northern, eastern, and central divisions. Government, Madam Speaker, will also support replanting of pine and degraded forests of $500,000, restoration of affected seaweed and aquaculture farms, $200,000, and the reconstruction of fishery and forestry offices and buildings, $1.6 million. Madam Speaker, in addition, we have received direct budgetary support of $23 million from the European Union for rehabilitation of the entire agricultural sector, including sugarcane cultivation and processing. Regarding infrastructure and public utilities, Madam Speaker, under the Winston Recovery Program, of the total $47.3 million in rehabilitation costs, Madam Speaker, $31.8 million is to be used for the reconstruction of roads, bridges and jetties, and also Irish crossings, many of which were damaged. $8.6 million for water and sewage, and $5.9 million for rural electrification projects, solar home systems, and diesel schemes. Insurance reform, Madam Speaker, under the recovery program. Madam Speaker, Cyclone Winston has also brought us face to face with the need to reform our insurance industry and the assumptions that underlie our insurance regime in Fiji. The uninsured losses arising from Winston significantly outweighed insured losses, which shows how vulnerable we are to these events. We need to do a better job of overseeing the insurance sector so that we can give more protection to the Fijian people and the Fijian economy. Frankly, Madam Speaker, the insurance industry has not been regulated well, and the industry itself needs to be more creative and innovative on its own volition and Fiji-focused. Insurance companies simply need to do more. The Reserve Bank had already undertaken with the insurance industry a complete review of the Insurance Act in 2013 and had already identified a number of areas in the need to reform. But now, Madam Speaker, we need to move more quickly, and we will soon hold public consultations on the provision of insurance services in Fiji. We must develop an insurance framework designed to reach to the underserved in our country, in our society, who desperately need protection that they can afford, and in future they have some form of protection. Climate change, Madam Speaker. We are faced with the reality of climate change and sea level rises, and we must take intelligent steps to adapt to the situation we are facing. We have no choice. In fact, it would be foolhardy not to act forcefully and immediately. First, we will continue to be a leading voice in the effort to make the entire world face up to the dire need to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In recognition of Fiji's desire and a unique ability to be a central point for the other Pacific SIDS, to build in-country capacity to access climate finance and formulate bankable projects, I am glad to announce, Madam Speaker, that Fiji's proposal has been accepted by UNESCO for Fiji to be the host country for this facility. And in this respect, government has allocated seed funding of $215,000 in the 2016-2017 fiscal year. At the local level, Madam Speaker, we are helping vulnerable communities adapt to natural disasters and climate change by finding the best solutions for each community. And many development partners are working with us already. This could mean building more resilient infrastructure, such as seawalls, providing equipment, or if necessary, relocating entire communities to safer areas nearby. We've already relocated 2 villages, and several more are scheduled to be moved in 2017. Madam Speaker, we're also restoring and protecting the forests that absorb carbon dioxide and help absorb rainwater through the RED program. And we are working with traditional owners to develop sustainable fishing practices. We are investing in weather forecasting with new equipment and new offices in areas strategically placed around the country in order to provide better forecasting and earlier warning systems for the residents. The World Bank provides a grant of $2.2 million for this program, and government has contributed $245,000. Fortunately, Madam Speaker, international aid partners have come forward with funding projects to help us deal with the effects of climate change, and we will continue to pursue international support for the very important and strategic work that we are doing. Roads, utilities and other infrastructure. Madam Speaker, 3 years ago we embarked on an ambitious program to put an end once and for all to the disgraceful state of the nation's roads. We remain committed to a modern and robust road system that serves cities and rural areas alike. And we have allocated $527 million to the Fiji Roads Authority for 2016-2017. We maintain a balance as much as we can between the rural roads that are less traveled but vital to so many communities as it connects them to markets, schools, services, health facilities, and the urban roads, on the other hand, Madam Speaker, that serve many people in a high-density area and carry the bulk of commerce and trade. Rural roads funding, Madam Speaker, will increase this year to an unprecedented $95 million. Rural projects include the Eastern Island Roads upgrade at $6 million, and I'm highlighting only the key ones here. Rotuma Farm Roads at $3.9 million, Kilaka Road Stage 3 and Crossing at $3.4 million, Cuva Kamba Peninsula Road at $3.3 million, and Matokana Village Road Stage 2 at $2.8 million. $4.5 million, Madam Speaker, is allocated for urgent repair of high priority bridges. Many of our bridges, Madam Speaker, are weak because of poor construction some time back, in some cases due to corruption and overloading. The Walu Bay Bridge, Tamavua Bridge, Lamy Bridge, Tavua Levu Bridge, Matanaivoso Bridge on the King's Road, Vesindrua Bridge in Vanuatu, Lambasa Bridge, Nakasava Bridge on the Trianinsula Road in Vanuatu, and Nayalayala Bridge in Tavyuni. All of this fall into this sad category. $38.2 million, Madam Speaker, is allocated to upgrade and maintain bridges in both rural and urban areas, including the Overlau Bridge Program at $3.17 million, and Tavyuni bridges at $9.5 million. $7.4 million is allocated to renew and maintain jetties maintenance and renewals, including Savusavu Jetty, Vunisea Jetty, and Natovi Jetty Stage 2. Government Shipping Services allocated $22.8 million to upgrade government shipping vessels, wharves and buildings, purchase a new multi-purpose vessel, and install beacon piles at Nambuwalu Jetty and Ellington Wharf. The Streetlight Improvement Program, which is so critical to public safety, will be funded at $10.7 million for urban areas and along the Queens and Kings Road and rural areas of Vanuatu. $500,000, Madam Speaker, is dedicated to the urgent repair of Ellington Wharf, a major point of embarkation or disembarkation for people travelling north and from north. Also, in the furtherance of connecting our many islands, we have allocated $150,000 to work together with AFL for the expansion of the runway at Matai Airport in Tavyuni to accommodate the ATR 42 and 72 to improve connectivity to Tavyuni, Madam Speaker, and we hope this work will be completed within 18 months. And we have allocated, Madam Speaker, $200,000 to begin preliminary works for the development of a new airport in Vanuatu in Sainganga. Madam Speaker, we are improving the capacity of the Water Authority of Fiji to provide water to communities whose water supply is vulnerable to disruption during heavy rains and eventually restore their water systems, and to deliver water to communities during emergencies. We simply have to expect to do this work every year, and it is fully anticipated in WEF's 2016-2017 allocation of $308.6 million, of which operating grant is $79.2 million and capital works, Madam Speaker, is $229.4 million. Madam Speaker, this also includes $7.5 million for the Rural Water Program, which will provide water to 14 villages, schools and settlements in the Eastern, Western and Central Divisions, and $1 million in reserve for projects that are being developed. Madam Speaker, communities no longer contribute to government's rural electrification and rural water programs. As you're aware, Madam Speaker, government had made a policy decision, unlike previous governments, that the communities do not need to make a contribution. Government now bears the full cost and will allocate $14.9 million for rural electrification. Community contributions that were previously collected for water and electricity from last year have been refunded or will be before the end of July 2016. Madam Speaker, in the education sector, reforming and improving all aspects of our education system has been the single most important undertaking of the government over the last few years. We have created truly free public education for the first time, increased teacher salaries, and put our children at the center of our efforts. This year, we will do the hard work of repairing and rebuilding our schools and school buildings in large parts of the country. We must also move ahead with the work of classroom education. We have increased salaries, Madam Speaker, in the 2016-2017 budget for teachers of early childhood education at a total cost of $6.8 million. Many of these teachers, Madam Speaker, were very much underpaid. There was no recognition of teachers who had degree qualifications in early childhood education. Some had diploma and some were just simply trained on the job. There will now be a demarcation and recognition given for that. These are the teachers, Madam Speaker, who set the patterns for learning in our children's lives, and they are vital. We've also increased grants to the schools, early childhood schools, Madam Speaker, by 33%, because $50 per child grants were given for 3 terms, will now be given for 3 terms instead of the current 2. So we'll now give $50 per term for 3 terms. Previously, we were only giving $50 for 2 terms. And in some schools, Madam Speaker, because the teachers weren't paid well, the $50 that was allocated for the child, they were using some of that money to pay for the teachers. Now they will not have to do that because the teachers will be given their full salary and the $50 will be utilized fully for the students. Madam Speaker, and when high school students are ready to graduate, they will find, Madam Speaker, in the 2016-2017 budget allocation, 30 more scholarships available under the TOPIS scheme at a cost of $630,000 additional. Madam Speaker, while we need our young people to study engineering, ocean science, biology, and other scientific and technical subjects, such as land surveying, town planning, we want to also, and which we want to encourage as much as possible, the increase in toppers will give greater accessibility to other areas of study which students want. The Fiji National University, Madam Speaker, will continue its physical and curricular expansion. It will receive an increased capital grant of $6.5 million to begin work on its new campus in Lambasa, which will open new opportunities for the young people in the north. It will also receive capital grants of $4.7 million for a veterinary laboratory and $2.5 million for the Fiji Maritime Academy for its building. Its operating grant is increased from $36 million to $45 million to attract top lecturers as well as full-time and adjunct faculties, which will increase recognition and raise the value of the FNU degree in Fiji and beyond. And this is one of the issues that we need to ensure that the quality and accreditation remains to international standard. Madam Speaker, we are also happy to announce that FNU from the middle of next year will begin to offer graduate medical programs for those who have already done a science degree. For example, a pharmacist who may be practicing as a pharmacist and may want to go back and get cross credits for the studies that they have done, or a person who may have done dentistry, to be able to get cross credits and then be able to get an MBBS, and that there's a recognition of those degrees that they've committed or carried out previously, Madam Speaker. This, of course, Madam Speaker, will increase the pool of doctors that will be made available to our medical system and beyond. Madam Speaker, employment and job creation. Madam Speaker, we will revise the employment taxation scheme to increase the tax deduction on wages paid to first full-time employees from 150% to 200%. This is to encourage employers to hire young people, women and others who may be entering the labor force for the first time. So essentially, whatever wages they pay, they must pay the minimum wage applicable to that sector. They will be able to claim that wage as a 200% rate as a tax deduction. We are also proposing, Madam Speaker, a new scheme, also a 200% tax deduction on wages paid to students under 2 different scenarios. One would be on job placement. That is part of a course requirement for a student for up to 6 months in the year before graduation. This is to bring employers into the education process and give students an opportunity to apply their learning and perhaps get a leg up on the first job. So there are some courses, Madam Speaker, that require you to do some practicals before you actually graduate. If they find a job to do their practicals, Madam Speaker, the salaries that they receive, their employer can claim a 200% tax deduction. There's some courses, Madam Speaker, where you have to do some work, some employment, some practical work during the course of your degree or certificate or diploma. They will also be able to claim the 200% tax deduction. We've got another step, Madam Speaker, and there may be students, for example, their course may not require them to do any practicals, but even then, if they do work part-time whilst they're studying, their employers will also be able to claim a 200% tax deduction for up to 3 months. So to take a scenario, if a person may be studying a degree course, say at USP or FNU, and if they are, for example, studying accounting, they may not have lectures 2 days in a week, and they find part-time work in an accounting firm, they will get paid, and of course that salary that they get paid, the employer will be able to claim that as a 200% tax deduction. This will encourage, Madam Speaker, our students to go out and to look for work. This will encourage employers to give work. It will also mean at the end of their studies, these students will be able to say that they have job experience, which will make them better placed to get full-time employment. Madam Speaker, we will also encourage employers, Madam Speaker, to provide what we call in-service education to the employees by increasing the tax deduction from 100% to 150%. So if I'm working for somebody and they think that I need to go and be better qualified and still continue to work for them, if they pay for my diploma, if it's $2,000, they can then claim that as a 150% tax deduction when they file their tax returns. This will also encourage them to do so. They will be able to get an employee who is better qualified, get better output, and we have an individual, a Fijian student or Fijian employee who will be much better qualified. Madam Speaker, we are also pleased to report that we have allocated $1 million contribution to build a world-class pilot training academy with 2 full-flight simulators in Nandi by the end of July of 2017. Madam Speaker, this is some work that has been going on behind the scene, and this is a partnership between Fiji Airways, Airbus and Boeing, and the simulator company CAE. It may well be that FNPF may join them as a shareholder. It will offer, Madam Speaker, this flight simulator course, introductory training on Airbus A330 and Boeing 737 full flight simulators, Madam Speaker. FNU, Madam Speaker, will be invited to partner with the Fiji Pilot Training Academy to offer undergraduate and advanced degree program for pilots as with universities elsewhere in the world. FNU already, Madam Speaker, has a small campus in Nandi which does some form of aircraft engineering. And this will be a perfect opportunity for our students to be able to piggyback on this international flight center, training center that we intend to set up and which we expect to be fully operational by the end of 2017 calendar year. Madam Speaker, we want international cadet pilots to begin the training here. There are many pilots going from Australia, from African countries to Singapore. There's an opportunity for them to come to Fiji. Our hotel rates are much cheaper than Singapore. We are a lot more competitive, so there's no reason as to why they cannot come to Fiji. And by having Airbus and Boeing partner with us in this particular project, obviously it gives us that international recognition. Madam Speaker, we expect the Academy to inspire young Fijians to pursue a career in the civil aviation industry, Madam Speaker. And we also expect international airlines to send their pilots to Fiji for their compulsory simulator training. Sugar, Madam Speaker. The impending end of the European Union sugar subsidy at the end of 2017 has caused some anxiety in the sugar sector. However, government is on top of this matter, Madam Speaker. Indeed, government is closely monitoring how challenges and opportunities in the sugarcane industry has been again politicized on the back of the 2 sugar bills before Parliament. Government will continue, however, to focus on its work. Government will continue the fertilizer subsidy with an allocation of $9.7 million. Upgrade cane access road at a cost of $3 million, and increase the allocation for the very successful sugarcane development and farmer assistance program up to $11 million. Government will continue with the digital mapping of the sugar sector, Madam Speaker, using GPS in order to develop better statistics at a cost of $600,000. Madam Speaker, government is a solution driver and remains positive. There's a pledge to look after the interests of the sugarcane farmers and their well-being, and we are very much focused on that. Madam Speaker, state assets and services. Improving the quality of essential state services and making them more accessible easier to use for all Fijians, and more resilient in the face of natural disasters is one of the government's long-term commitments, and the 2016-2017 budget continues this effort. It is important to decentralize government services so that people can use them without having to travel long distances. Madam Speaker, this may seem self-evident, but we can tell you it wasn't always the case. A few years ago, about 3 or 4 years ago, we opened new BDM offices and formed BDM mobile teams. This is birth, deaths and marriages. And then we launched a campaign to encourage people to register. And we got an astonishing 70,000 Fijians who weren't registered. You may recall this, Madam Speaker, in your previous role. People simply had not reported births, deaths and marriages. We had people who were 65 years old who did not have a birth certificate because it was too much of an ordeal and too expensive to make the long trip to Suva or Lautoka and maybe Lambasa. Government is moving its services to where the people are because it simply makes sense, Madam Speaker. We will establish new offices, refurbish existing offices and upgrade special equipment in offices throughout the country. Priority will be given to improving public health, particularly maternal care, reducing crime and increasing access to courts, decentralizing immigration and other vital services, developing sports facilities and institutions, restoring services to sectors like agriculture and fisheries, and protecting Fijian heritage sites. And Madam Speaker, as I mentioned the BDM offices, we will in the 2016-2017 fiscal year establish 4 new ones in Nambualu, Navua, Korvo and Singatoka at a cost of $244,000. Madam Speaker, legal aid services throughout Fiji have shown their value and empowers ordinary Fijians and will receive a funding of $5 million. Madam Speaker, just to put into perspective, the Legal Aid Commission, which commenced or was created in 1998, right up till 2008, had only 3 legal aid offices in Fiji, Suva, Lautoka and Lambasa, the whole of those 10 years. From 2008, Madam Speaker, government has continued to increase allocation to the Legal Aid Commission. As a result, we now have offices in Nasinu, Navua, Singatoka, Nandi, Ba, Rakiraki, Korvo, Nosori, and Sabsaba. All of this in the last 8 years since 2008. And in this coming fiscal year, Madam Speaker, we intend to open more legal aid offices in Tavyuni, Rotuma, Levuka, Nambualu, and Kandavu, making it a total of 18 offices throughout Fiji, providing greater access to justice to ordinary Fijians, and in particular the most vulnerable and those on low income. Madam Speaker, major expenditures to improve access and quality of healthcare services include $13.4 million to complete construction of the new Ba Hospital, $4.1 million to complete construction of the new Naulu Health Center in Nosori, $2 million to upgrade the Rotuma Health Center, $3 million to extend the Colonial War Memorial Hospital Maternity Unit, $2.3 million to complete the low-risk Makoi Maternity Unit, and $6.3 million, Madam Speaker, to upgrade the Kayasi Health Center to a sub-divisional hospital. The people in the interior of the hills in Navosa, Madam Speaker, need a sub-divisional hospital, and they will get one in this fiscal year. In the interest of bringing the judiciary closer to the people and preserving law and order, Madam Speaker, preparatory works will begin for the new Nasinu Magistrates Court and Lautoka High Court in the upcoming fiscal year. Construction of the new Ba Magistrates Court will also be completed, and upgrades of the Magistrates Courts in Tavyuni, Nambualu and Tavua will be undertaken. We will create 2 new labour tribunals, one to be permanently based in Nandi, as at the moment there's only 2 labour tribunals, both of them are placed in Suva. So one will now be based in Nandi, and the other one, Madam Speaker, will be a mobile tribunal. So it can go up to Vanuatu, it can go up to Ra, Tavua, Ba, and other parts of Fiji or Lau, where there may be employer-employee grievances that need to be dealt with efficiently, and they will travel into those places, Madam Speaker. This, Madam Speaker, will help clear the backlog of cases surrounding employer-employee grievances. The tribunal will come under the magistracy once we enact amendments to the relevant laws, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, works will also include the construction of the new remand centre at a cost of $4 million and the new women's correctional facility, both of them in Lautoka, for $1.4 million, which are set for completion in the upcoming fiscal year. An additional $1 million has been allocated, Madam Speaker, for the new staffing requirements for the new facilities in Lautoka. Madam Speaker, to increase police presence and shorten response times in the heavily populated Nosini corridor, a total of $2.85 million is allocated to construct the Valley Level Police Station and to begin preparatory works on a new police station in Nakasi. Work will begin in the new fiscal year on a new police station in Lautoka at a cost of $1 million. And upgrade works will also commence in the Nandi police station and others as need arises. The construction of all new police stations, Madam Speaker, will now be standardized. Also, Madam Speaker, through the government's leasing vehicle program, the police force in the next few weeks will have a full complement of vehicles, so response times and the morale in the police force again will be uplifted, Madam Speaker. An allocation of $7.5 million, Madam Speaker, is provided to the Fiji military forces, which has been playing a pivotal role, Madam Speaker, in the recovery and rehabilitation efforts to build capacity and upgrade military facilities and the procurement of specialized vehicles. Madam Speaker, we have directed our attention to those Fijians in the Lamy-Suva-Nosori corridor who cremate their loved ones, mostly our Hindu brothers and sisters. And up to now, Madam Speaker, they have had no decent place to cast the ashes of their loved ones in the sea as part of the funeral rituals. We have allocated funds to build a ghat, or a walkway, to the sea that will give them a quiet and dignified site where they can perform the sacred funeral ritual of casting the ashes of their loved ones into the sea. Government maintains cemeteries, Madam Speaker, through the correction services. And it is a matter of fairness as well as respect that we provide such a site for which we will spend $100,000, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we will continue to fund municipal council initiatives such as markets through the Challenge Fund, including the completion of this wonderful Albert Park that we see outside this building, and providing a clean image of our new towns and cities. For example, Madam Speaker, in the next year's budget, we'll be introducing new vacuum street cleaners for Suva, Lautoka and Nandi at a cost of $540,000, and developing waste management systems, Madam Speaker, at a cost of $4.2 million. Madam Speaker, we find that increased urbanization and more rural and semi-rural areas are now becoming part of the towns and cities that we live in. Madam Speaker, micro, small and medium enterprises. Madam Speaker, the government has consistently put its faith in the Fijian people to produce, to innovate and to strive to improve the situation. Fijian people are very hardworking, Madam Speaker, and resourceful people, and the government needs only to provide a level playing field, the right fiscal and economic incentives and an occasional boost, and they will respond with energy and optimism. We have done those things, and the Fijian people, Madam Speaker, have not been disappointed, nor have they disappointed us. The fact is, Madam Speaker, that grassroots entrepreneurship drives economic growth and employment all over the world, and Fiji is no exception. So government will continue to do all it can to foster the development of micro, small and medium enterprises. Madam Speaker, government's current support of MSMEs is currently delivered through different programs in various ministries and departments, including the Ministry of Agriculture, Rural and Maritime Development, Industry and Trade and Tourism, Fisheries and Forest, Women, Children, Poverty Alleviation. Madam Speaker, however, we are determined to strengthen the support to the MSME sector by combining all those efforts together. So, Madam Speaker, we are determined to strengthen our support for the sector by taking a robust, comprehensive and strategic approach to developing the sector. Government will establish a national MSME Council to be chaired by the Honourable Prime Minister and a new MSE Central Coordinating Agency which could have board members such as the Governor of the Reserve Bank and various other people involved in the financial sector. The Council will provide policy direction to support the MSME sector, and the new agency will monitor and evaluate MSMEs and provide financing, training, mentoring, advisory support and business incubation, and also collect data and also support and evaluate data for the purposes of assessing new businesses. Help them to be tied in with the Fiji Development Bank. As mentioned in this Honourable House before, Madam Speaker, we are also carrying out a review of the Fiji Development Bank to ensure that it goes back to its roots and becomes a truly development bank. Madam Speaker, we will also use its unique position to give the MSMEs access to economies of scale which can be critical to their development. The new agency, Madam Speaker, will work with both the formal and informal sectors and will work to empower informal operators and bring them fully into the mainstream economy. Some of this work is being done, but by different agencies as highlighted. In the future, it will be part of a comprehensive effort to build the MSME sector. Several programs will come under the umbrella of the Council and the new agency. We have allocated, Madam Speaker, $300,000 to carry out the scoping works and the regulatory framework for this umbrella body. Madam Speaker, on a separate note, the Small and Medium Enterprise Credit Guarantee Scheme, which gives MSMEs greater access to credit by sharing the risk with lending institutions, will continue. And this is government's funding is channeled through the Reserve Bank of Fiji, where we guarantee loans that are taken by these small businesses through the mainstream banks. Since the scheme began, Madam Speaker, in 2012, it has covered more than 1,350 loans, valued, Madam Speaker, at approximately $80.5 billion. This is an astonishing figure, Madam Speaker. It shows clearly how ordinary Fijians with ideas and ambition, which they have hungered for, and not for a handout, are able to perform well. Madam Speaker, but for their government to believe in them and invest in them. We are proud to be part of a government that has said yes to them, and they have said yes to us. Madam Speaker, the people have proven us right. In all of these loans that have been given out, Madam Speaker, the defaults out of the $80.5 million has only been $38,250. This isn't a banker, there isn't a banker in the world, Madam Speaker, who wouldn't accept this risk. So in the 2016-2017 budget, Madam Speaker, government has allocated $1.5 million to keep funding the scheme, and it is obviously a bargain for us. Madam Speaker, the Micro and Small Business Grant, which provides financing for entrepreneurs who wish to start a business or expand an existing small business, has assisted more than 5,853 applicants with a total budget of $5.5 million. The initial budget allocation was for $1 million, but this program, Madam Speaker, attracted so many applicants, more than 26,000 applicants, and we found an additional $4.5 million to meet this groundswell of demand. This is tremendous value for the taxpayer, but we will need to shift the focus in the fiscal year 2016-2017 to small businesses that have been severely affected by Cyclone Winston. We have concluded a thorough review of damage assessment reports and have allocated $6.4 million, Madam Speaker, to help these businesses rebound. And we have identified and approved 3,172 recipients. Madam Speaker, the Indian government has seen the value of this program and has just committed, only a couple of days ago, through an MOU, to provide an additional $4.7 million for the new recipients. Madam Speaker, we also remain committed to the Northern Development Project, which is focused specifically on MSMEs and vulnerable rural communities, and the Integrated Human Resource Development Program, which aims to boost small-scale economic activity among community groups through projects that generate sustainable income. The NDP has benefited more than 2,000 Fijians, and the IHRDP will encourage residents of 19 communities to work together productively to produce a single commodity. For the 2016-2017 budget, Madam Speaker, a sum of $1.5 million has been allocated to the NDP. Encouraging business and investment, Madam Speaker. Government continues its commitment to export businesses in Fiji through the National Export Strategy. Many successful exporters can credit the NES for helping them to expand their businesses to overseas markets and create thousands of jobs for Fijians. This is not a subsidy, Madam Speaker, to businesses. It is an investment in Fijians to benefit all Fijians, and it helps create opportunity throughout the economy. Companies like Ben's Trading have benefited immensely from this, and they are now doing a wonderful job in being a major exporter of crops such as dalo. Tourism is the biggest sector of the economy, Madam Speaker, and the grant to Tourism Fiji will increase from $32 million to $36 million. Our reputation as a tourism destination has not suffered due to Cyclone Winston. Fiji is strong, and the people want to come here. This additional budgetary allocation will greatly assist Tourism Fiji to work with all its partners to secure and improve our market position. Government also needs to be creative to bring more people to Fiji without compromising our quality, without compromising our standard. And one way, Madam Speaker, which we are announcing today, is to eliminate the departure tax for visitors who stay in Fiji for less than 72 hours. So with the attractive routes such as which Fiji Airways now offers to LA, to Hong Kong, to Singapore, to Australia, to New Zealand, and various cities in those two countries, Madam Speaker, now of course we're flying to San Francisco, we will be able to package Australian, for example, who wants to go to LA, to fly via Fiji, spend 2 days without having to pay the departure tax, and Fiji Airways, of course, can partner with these travels like with many other hotels, Madam Speaker. So with the attractive routes, Madam Speaker, this will become even more attractive for visitors to come to Fiji for short stays. And when they do, Madam Speaker, of course, they will get cheaper tickets, attractive tickets, and Fiji Airways obviously is keen to package such trips. Madam Speaker, nonetheless, Madam Speaker, Winston was a wake-up call reminding us that our economy cannot rely on one or two sectors. Imagine, Madam Speaker, what might have happened if Winston had followed its earlier predicted course, ripping through Suva, the Nasinu corridor, where nearly one-third of our total population lives, and where a number of manufacturing plants are located, if it went along the same path, affecting all the major tourism areas like Nandi, like the Coral Coast. Our economy could have been completely wiped out. And we obviously, Madam Speaker, cannot let that happen. This is why we say that we are a vulnerable economy, where you have one climatic event that can set you back for decades. It is therefore, Madam Speaker, critical for government to ensure that we expand our economic base. We simply do not rely on just one or two sectors to contribute to the economy. Madam Speaker, as a result of that, of course, government is increasing its allocation to Investment Fiji to $2.2 million to encourage investment in new industries. Government will develop a modern services manufacturing park in the Western Division, with all infrastructure in place where investors, domestic and others, and preference will be given to domestic investors first, can begin operations immediately and start employing Fijians. We have allocated $500,000 to begin this project, and sites have already been identified in Rasa and Warrambitia. Madam Speaker, we have nearly doubled funding for Film Fiji to $1.9 million, because every film or television program that is filmed here stimulates businesses, creates jobs, and promotes Fiji as a place to live, work, or visit. We are assisting ordinary businesses through the National Fijian Made by Fijian branding campaign, raising awareness of the quality of Fijian-made products and the importance of supporting Fijian businesses. $500,000, Madam Speaker, is allocated for this wonderful initiative. Madam Speaker, informed and empowered consumers are a vital part of the free market, and government has increased its support of the Fiji Commerce Commission to $2.5 million and the Consumer Council of Fiji to $1.3 million. Madam Speaker, one other way to help ordinary businesses and their customers is to eliminate the archaic, legally mandated limits on commercial hours for ordinary shops. They are arbitrary and out of date for today's modern Fiji and are a source of inconvenience for many people who cannot find enough hours in the day to manage work, home, family and other responsibilities and still take care of essential services. Businesses and citizens alike have pressed government to allow the market, and that means businesses and their customers, to determine when businesses can open their doors to customers 24 hours a day if they wish, if it makes business sense. We agree and we are happy to give the average working person more hours every week to supply the home, maintain the car, or take care of financial businesses. We also think, Madam Speaker, that visitors will also be tempted to buy more if it is more convenient for them to do so at hours that may be outside of the normative hours. This measure, Madam Speaker, is good for people, good for business, and good for jobs. It just makes sense. By repealing this archaic law, we will also provide greater legal protection to thousands of Fijians, Madam Speaker, who work as shop assistants in retail stores throughout Fiji. If one were to read this archaic law, Madam Speaker, one would be astounded. So, Madam Speaker, with the repeal of this law and the replacement of it with the new bill, it will not only create the opportunity for shops to stay longer, and we know many shops actually, Madam Speaker, do stay open illegally at the moment. There are shops we can go to and buy yongwana or buy Chinese lolly at 2 a.m. in the morning, but that's all illegal operations. This will now allow them to be legally operating. But, Madam Speaker, also, at the same time, the new law will set out the rights and privileges of workers prescribed in the ERP, in the Health and Safety Work Act, to apply to shop assistants and other workers employed in the retail sector. They do not have the specific coverage at the moment. It is also very interesting, Madam Speaker, the retail sector is one sector where we have an absence of unions. So government has stepped in to protect these workers by repealing this law and making sure that retail workers or workers who work in the retail sector as shop assistants, etc., are covered by the ERP and are covered by the Health and Safety Work Act. Madam Speaker, furthermore, the Honourable Minister for Local Government also, through the regulations that will be passed from tomorrow, will remove the very archaic law provisions pertaining to the number of car parks that is required for development. Technology has changed, the requirements have changed, so now in order to encourage the construction of modern commercial and industrial complexes, government relaxes requirements under the Town and Country Planning Act for car park space, which will allow developers more flexibility to use land in the most logical and efficient manner for their building projects. Information communication technology, Madam Speaker. The government has been determined from the beginning to use technology to integrate Fiji more effectively with the rest of the world, to connect Fijians and to deliver information to every corner of every island in our beloved country. Government will also work to improve service delivery in the sector so that ICT can play a larger role in stimulating the Fijian economy. To provide added stimulus, we will eliminate import duties on components and materials that are essential to ICT developments. These include modems. Duties have been reduced from 5% to 0%. Telecommunication batteries, duties have been reduced from 32% to 5%. And fiber optic cables, where duty has been reduced from 5% to 0%. The use of fiber optic cables, Madam Speaker, will boost internet access speed and deliver e-services more efficiently to more Fijians throughout Fiji. Madam Speaker, the capital expenditure for all ICT programs is $13 million, which includes, Madam Speaker, $9.2 million that is dedicated to connecting Vanuatu to the Southern Cross cable through a link from Samoa to Vatuanga, which will pass between Vanuatu and Taveuni. Madam Speaker, this is a project that holds enormous potential to create jobs, promote investment, and improve government services in Vanuatu. Residents will be more connected with the rest of Fiji and the world, which is good for business, good for education, and good for families. This is an investment in our country that will be paid back many times over and in a very short period of time. $400,000, Madam Speaker, has been allocated for the central VoIP platform, which will reduce communication costs within government. $1 million has been allocated for the government fiber network project, which will boost internet speed, access, and deliver services more efficiently to more people throughout Fiji. We have a bill before Parliament to establish a national switch, or the Fiji Interchange Network, to connect all online payment services with Fiji's financial institutions. The national switch will combat anti-competitive measures, reduce costs of financial delivery, reduce our dependency on cash, and give consumers better access to financial systems, and we have allocated $600,000, Madam Speaker, for this purpose. Madam Speaker, women, children, and the elderly. Madam Speaker, it should come to us as no surprise to anyone in this Parliament or to the nation that advancing the welfare of women and children is one of our government's highest priorities. The Honourable Prime Minister has spoken out forcefully and repeatedly about the need to end the shameful and destructive violence against women and children that exists in our country. And Madam Speaker, I'm sorry to say that it is not just the violence that causes shame. It is equally shameful that civilized, educated, and worldly Fijians, even good and honourable people, make excuses for it. When we excuse violence, we teach generations of Fijians to be violent and to see women and children as property to be used or abused. It is a plague, Madam Speaker, that gnaws and tears away at the very fabric of our society, and we must unite to stop it. Ending domestic violence, Madam Speaker, is one important part of our effort to protect and empower women and children, two of the most vulnerable groups in Fiji. The Ministry of Women, which oversees the mainstreaming of gender and is the primary advisory body on women and gender development issues, is allocated $3.4 million for this particular aspect. We will provide a 24-hour domestic violence helpline at a cost of $170,000 to provide both emergency and non-emergency counsel and assistance to victims of abuse. This helpline will bring domestic violence out of the shadows and let women and girls and boys know that they are not alone. It is a free call, Madam Speaker, and even a 10-year-old girl can pick up the phone and get the help and protection she needs. We'll also continue to fund the Women's Action Plan at $1 million, the Fiji Women's Federation at $200,000, the Fiji National Women's Expo at $500,000, and the Food Voucher Program, which attempts to ensure that pregnant women in rural areas receive adequate nutrition and is allocated $500,000. The Care and Protection Allowance Program, Madam Speaker, which assists children from low-income families and single-parent families, prisoner dependents, children living with disabilities, and children under residential care, will also be funded at a substantial level, receiving $3.5 million, including $300,000 for the 250 new recipients. We have raised pensions for widows, children and other dependents of deceased members of the RFMF. Widows' pensions will increase from 33% to 40% of a full pension, and adult dependents' pensions would increase from 12.5% to 40%. Madam Speaker, the government has made an allocation of $14 million, an increase of $1 million for the social pension scheme for the 2016-2017 fiscal year. And the age of those who can apply for this scheme has been lowered, Madam Speaker, as undertaken by government from 68 years now to 66 years. It started off at 70 and will now be 66 years, Madam Speaker. In total, Madam Speaker, government's social protection program has been allocated $40.7 million, which is an increase of $2.5 million. In addition to our social protection programs, Madam Speaker, government has allocated $500,000 to assist lease payments for tenants who are in abject poverty or disabled and who cannot make their lease payments, whether it is to TLTB or whether it is to the Lands Department. Madam Speaker, regulations governing the labelling of baby formula has had an unintended negative consequences for women and children. Ironically, they were intended to ensure the quality of baby formula in Fiji, but the effect has been to keep some of the best baby formula in the world out of Fiji because the manufacturers were unwilling to pay for special labelling for such a small market. We will change the labelling requirements, Madam Speaker, which comes into effect from tomorrow, and also require, however, at the same time, the current Codex standards, which will allow Fijian mothers who cannot lactate, or babies who are lactose intolerant, or have other problems, or women who choose at some point to use formula. The Codex standards, Madam Speaker, are based on the same formula that applies to the milk that mothers use in New Zealand, Australia, or the United States. Madam Speaker, persons with disabilities. People living with disabilities, Madam Speaker, everywhere face serious obstacles in their everyday lives. But we are a developing country, and a life for people with disabilities in Fiji is probably harder than life for people with disabilities in Canada, Australia, or Finland. But we don't want any of our fellow Fijians to be or accept second-class status. If we seek the best for ourselves, we cannot leave any of our citizens behind because of a disability. It is up to government, representing the entire Fijian community, to put forward policies that give people with disabilities the foundation to have ambitious plans, achieve their potential, and live fulfilling lives. There is no reason, Madam Speaker, why people living with disabilities cannot make real contributions to the economy and society in general, if only we can level the playing field for them. Madam Speaker, perhaps the best single thing government can do to raise the condition of the disabled and bring them into the mainstream, Madam Speaker, is to encourage companies, businesses to hire them as employees, to mainstream them. Therefore, Madam Speaker, we are giving a 300% tax deduction on wages paid to disabled employees for the first 3 years of employment through revisions of the employment taxation system. Madam Speaker, just to digress in our consultations, we met with a gentleman in Lautoka who works for a printery shop. He is completely deaf. He cannot hear, completely able-bodied otherwise. He works in a printery shop. They don't pay him the same rate of salary that other people get paid who can hear. When he's sick, they don't give him sick leave. They tell him he can leave. We obviously, Madam Speaker, need to ensure that these people are protected. We obviously want to ensure, Madam Speaker, that these people who are employable are employed, and we encourage them to be employed by potential employers, and sometimes we need to give the carrot. And the carrot is the 300% tax deduction, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this will encourage employers to hire people with disabilities who are most capable and able to carry out responsibilities and even do better than many of us supposed able-bodied Fijians. A disabled person must be given a chance to have meaningful work. This incentive will encourage employers and also compensate them for accommodations they might need to make for disabled employees. Madam Speaker, government has launched a number of initiatives for the disabled, including the subsidized bus fare concession, which fully waives bus fares for persons living with disabilities. Currently, 2,490 individuals benefit from this. Grants are also provided, Madam Speaker, to voluntary organizations with the Ministry of Women, Children and Poverty Alleviation and the Fiji National Council for Disabled Persons. These organizations support the blind and hearing impaired, persons with learning disabilities, and the physically disabled. The Rights of Persons with Disability Bill is currently before Parliament, which captures the most significant features of the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, which Fiji has signed but has yet to ratify. We believe we are, in fact, Madam Speaker, ahead of this bill in a very practical sense. Madam Speaker, we will allocate $1.6 million to fund NGOs that support the disabled, such as the Spinal Injuries Association, Fiji Association for Deaf, United Blind Persons, and the Fiji Disabled People's Federation, and others. This, Madam Speaker, is a jump of 800%, and it comes with requirements, of course, for transparency, accountability, and strong financial management. We are also working very closely, Madam Speaker, with the Fiji Sugar Corporation to provide a facility for disabled persons in the Western Division in its compound in Lautoka. Madam Speaker, the disabled persons in the Western Division do not have a central place to go to, as we have in Brown Street in Suva. This facility, Madam Speaker, will cater for persons with disabilities in the Western Division. It will be ready by September of this year. Government will also, Madam Speaker, provide for a new bus for those disabled persons in the Western Division. At the moment, they do not have any form of transportation. When they want to have the meetings, they cannot get together. When they want to have trainings, they cannot get together. If they want to get a wheelchair, they have to come specifically each time to get a wheelchair from Suva. This will also provide them with some storage facilities. Madam Speaker has highlighted the facility in Lautoka will allow disabled persons in the Western Division to conduct trainings, meetings, and store equipment. Government will also pay for the vocational teachers in Suva who are currently being paid as volunteers. It's a wonderful vocational training course. And only 3 of the teachers were currently paid by the Ministry of Education. Government will pick up the tab for the other 6 or 8 teachers who are qualified to take these courses. Madam Speaker, the land transport regulations will also be amended, Madam Speaker, and the Minister for Responsible Transport will be doing that very soon, where we'll make an amendment to the regulation that the first 2 rows of seats must always be reserved for disabled persons. Of course, if there's no disabled person in the bus, an able-bodied person can sit there. But should they come on board, then we have to move away and give them that right to sit there. And this, of course, Madam Speaker, will be put in place in regulations from tomorrow. Madam Speaker, of course, as we've said, that we now, this broadcast today, we have a sign language interpreter, and we are also, Madam Speaker, working behind the scenes with the International Telecommunications Union and other partners to ensure that sign language or other forms of messaging becomes available in our television in the future. Of course, Madam Speaker, this comes on the back of the fact that we are now carrying out digital television works, and which will make it a lot easier to do so. We are also working with FRA, Madam Speaker, and municipal councils throughout the country to retrofit public toilet facilities to accommodate the disabled, and also retrofit many of the footpaths that we see that does not have a ramp. Many of the footpaths were built years ago and they do not have wheelchair access. Madam Speaker, revenue collection capacity and tax incentives. Madam Speaker, all of this expenditure cannot be possible without tax revenue and our ability to obtain funds we need to build this country, to stay on that path to a future that is prosperous, free, sustainable and fulfilling depends on both government and the people. Government must do a better job of collecting taxes that requires a combination of improved services to the taxpayer, a growing economy that broadens the tax base, and better enforcement of tax laws. It does not require us, Madam Speaker, to increase personal or corporate taxes. We need greater compliance and we need a broader-based tax economy. Government, Madam Speaker, has reformed the tax code, regulatory codes, and a number of policies to encourage and reward investment, and that has produced more revenue with lower taxes. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, though, not every Fijian pays his or her taxes gladly, and some would avoid paying taxes altogether while reaping the rewards of our system and enjoying the protections and programs funded by public funds by the taxpayers who actually do pay the taxes. Indeed, many interested parties, even publicly, always blame taxes for the increased cost of business, when at close examination of overall taxes, including company and personal taxes, we will find it's all much lower compared to other countries. Yet, these very people who complain are the ones who do not want to reduce the exorbitant margins or give up the exclusivity because they don't understand finance at all and the need to provide for all Fijians. Madam Speaker, revenue collection increased notably after we reviewed and began reforming our collection mechanisms in 2013. In 2015, Madam Speaker, the total projected revenue collection stood at $2.8 billion, around 30.7% of GDP. Last year, we changed the tax code to lower VAT and import duties on a number of items. And we warned retailers, Madam Speaker, that we would fine and, if necessary, prosecute anyone who did not pass the lower VAT onto the customers. As of today, FIRCA has completed 32 cases and collected fines amounting to $700,000, mostly from supermarkets, a cinema company, bookstores, restaurants and car dealers who did not pass on the VAT reduction to their clients, to their customers. And they've all been fined, they've all paid up. In the next fiscal year, Madam Speaker, we will focus our reform efforts on putting in place simple, streamlined administrative processes and doing a better job of assisting taxpayers, processing applications for investment projects and recovering outstanding taxes. Machines linked to cash registers, as highlighted last year, to monitor retail sales will be deployed this year and will combat internal fraud. We will implement data warehousing and accommodate taxpayer and government needs and improve access to services through e-processing. Madam Speaker, as we become more efficient in collecting revenue, we also must become better to be able to use tax policy to improve people's lives, encourage healthy lifestyles, ensure greater equality, and create more opportunity. We have mentioned the tax break for employers who hire persons with disabilities, but we have proposed a number of other measures that will make a real difference in people's lives. Government is also proposing a range of new revenue policies that lower some duties and excise taxes in prioritized areas of development, widen the tax base to fund government initiatives, and provide incentives to limit carbon emissions, improve public health, and employ disadvantaged groups. The World Customs Organization has recommended changes in the harmonized system after its most recent periodic review. And I will be bringing a bill to Parliament later this year to make those changes, and they need to be implemented by 1 January of 2017, Madam Speaker. In order to allow Fijians to have cheaper, cleaner running vehicles and to reduce our carbon footprint to meet Fiji's global commitment, all new hybrid vehicles will continue to attract zero duty for the next 2 years. However, with the effect from 1 January 2017, second-hand hybrid vehicles will attract a modest duty increase based on engine size. 6 months' time, therefore, Madam Speaker, is given from now until the end of the year for all those Fijians who want to take advantage of this reduction if they are interested in purchasing second-hand hybrid vehicles. Furthermore, Madam Speaker, as we know, the markup on vehicles has been very high. We have discovered that vehicles that land in Fiji at a cost of about $8,000 are actually sold in the market to ordinary Fijians at about $22,000. The markup is about $15,000, $20,000 even on a vehicle, or $10,000 on a vehicle. So whilst we are foregoing duty in the hope that the price for the consumer will be reduced, the business people, the importers are actually jacking up their margins. So in order to address this issue, Madam Speaker, FIRCA, from August of this year, will start publicizing through the media the price at which vehicles are landed in Fiji and the price at which they are sold for all the companies. So then the consumers will be able to know which company is charging what markup, and they can make those choices. Unfortunately, Madam Speaker, it will take our FIRCA's resources, but it will also mean that we'll hopefully get better pricing and better margins being pushed for the benefit of the consumers in Fiji. Madam Speaker, but we also need, if we want to go the electric car way, we need to build an infrastructure to support those electric vehicles. So equipment for charging stations will also enter duty-free. Charging station businesses will enjoy a 7-year tax holiday and be able to carry forward 8 years of losses. They are also eligible for rebates of 5% of investment of $3 million or more and 7% on $10 million or more, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, alcohol and tobacco are major factors in the prevalence of non-communicable disease in Fiji, as is overconsumption of sugar-sweetened drinks, which can be linked directly to obesity and diabetes. In order to reduce consumption of these products and help improve the health of Fijians, government is increasing the fiscal and import excise tax on alcohol and tobacco products by 15%. And we believe that we can stick to this rate for the next 3 years. We have received many requests from the private sector and NGOs to help Fijians control the intake of sugary beverages. So the excise tax is being increased by 20 cents per litre. Madam Speaker, because of the rationalization of our taxation regime, and now because we have a better regulatory framework for the fair reporting of credit, the credit card levy will now be eliminated. to simplify the taxation system. Madam Speaker, regarding capacity building and salaries. Madam Speaker, the nation we are becoming requires us to step up to our game, to invest in the people we need to deliver services, to build infrastructure, and to generally improve the quality of life in Fiji. Our civil service is improving rapidly as we set high standards and provide our civil service with the guidance, structure, and training they need to do their jobs well. While we carry out our civil service reform, we are also putting into place regulations and procedures that will improve the checks and balances in management and compliance with ministry standards for disbursements. Madam Speaker, Government will provide $90,000 in grants to professional and trade bodies such as architectural organizations, engineers, builders, and even hairdresser organizations to help them develop capacity, professionalism, and high professional standards. We expect these organizations, Madam Speaker, at the same time to be accountable, keep proper records, hold regular elections and meetings, and will seek to engage with more associations in the coming years that meet these standards. Madam Speaker, we are also introducing major improvements in the terms and conditions of government-employed doctors. In order to improve efficiency, the budget allocation and the responsibility for the administration of these doctors will now be transferred to the Ministry of Civil Service, pending the completion of the civil service reform in the health ministry. There are a number of works on foot that we need to address, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, at the same time, we are giving a healthy pay rise increase to government-employed doctors in order to attract and retain talented doctors and reward them fairly for their skills and services. The increased salary ranges from 56% to 81%, depending on the specialized area of practice, which should give everyone an idea of just how underpaid they were. We will also pay for the postgraduate studies, Madam Speaker, at FNU in order to help them stay abreast of advances in medicine and ensure that the public gets the most advanced care possible in Fiji. The current on-call rates, Madam Speaker, for doctors, which has been there for a while, which has now been completely changed with this announcement, used to be about $12 for the whole night. Locums, Madam Speaker, weren't allowed when locums were actually available. So, Madam Speaker, an allocation of $14 million has been set aside to meet doctors' salaries. We also believe there is an opportunity for a lot more collaboration and synergy between what we call public doctors and private doctors. Indeed, Madam Speaker, we hope to, in the next few months, following further consultations, merge the two professional medical associations. One is the Fiji College of General Practitioners, which is only the private sector doctors, and the Fiji Medical Association, which is only the public health doctors. There's no reason as to why they should not be merged. There's no reason as to why private sector doctors cannot, for example, come and serve for 3 or 4 hours at a peak period in the public hospital. All of this is possible, Madam Speaker, and this is part and parcel of the review process that is taking place. Madam Speaker, also we have set aside $250,000 to set up an open and transparent complaint system and create a mechanism for any Fijian to seek resolution of complaints about the treatment by any medical or health institution. Madam Speaker, this will give you a direct hotline to them. They're able to pick up phones, whether the nurse may be talking to them in a rude manner, or whether it's a complaint about a particular service of a doctor, or whether it's anything to do with the health service. We then, Madam Speaker, expect to extend this complaint protocol system that we put in place to other, what we call high public impact areas of government services. Madam Speaker, we will continue to help Itauki landowners become land developers if they choose by giving them wherewithal to install basic infrastructure such as water, sewage, and electricity on the land that they plan to lease, and even become partners in the development, whether residential, commercial, or light industrial, Madam Speaker. This allows landowners to add value to their property, negotiate for better lease terms, and become partners in the development of their land rather than passive leaseholders, rather than simply owning assets but without cash. The government, Madam Speaker, has further and continues to allocate $10 million for this purpose. 4 projects have already been approved, Madam Speaker, and works have already started in Warambitia, Saweni, Vunda, and Yandua in Nanunga. And we hope to identify more in the next few weeks, Madam Speaker. There's a few more in the Central Division. Madam Speaker, in the wake of T.C. Winston, a number of people who experienced difficulties in complying with the requirements of the Land Sales Act sought extension for compliance. because of the inability to build because of Cyclone Winston. In order to address these concerns, we will amend the law by establishing a review committee to assess non-resident owners' requests for extensions in relation to the requirement to build on the land within the 2 years. $25,000, Madam Speaker, has also been allocated for monitoring compliance with the Act and to ensure that the land is being utilized. The Human Rights and Anti-Discrimination Commission is funded at $1.5 million, an increase of $300,000. This will allow the Human Rights and Anti-Discrimination Commission to receive and investigate more complaints from the general public. This was seen in the budget consultation that we held, in particular with persons with disabilities. The Accountability and Transparency Commission will receive an allocation of $635,000, Madam Speaker, and we look forward to the Standing Committee reporting the Information Bill and the Code of Conduct Bill. The Information Bill, Madam Speaker, 2016, gives effect to the right of access of official information, which is a clear indication of the government's commitment to open governance and the core principles of democracy, human rights, and, of course, transparency. The Code of Conduct Bill, Madam Speaker, provides for codes which must be complied with by those in public office to ensure the proper conduct of those in public service and the protection of public interest. Madam Speaker, FICAC has proven itself to be dedicated, capable, and scrupulously independent in pursuing cases of corruption. For instance, it has instituted proceedings in court only recently against an Australian company called Prime Fiji Limited that was contracted by FRA to install street lighting. Its success not only roots out corruption that has occurred, they uphold the principles that dishonesty will not be tolerated by us. And that gives people faith to trust our legal system, work hard and invest. It is funded at $8.5 million, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, a modern country needs an equally modern police force, one that protects and serves the community. We must equip our police and give them the technology, the equipment and training they need to keep us safe. The Fiji Police Force will receive an allocation of $131.7 million, an increase of $5.5 million. Madam Speaker, we have also increased the salaries for special constables by 20%. Their pay was set based on unrealistic assumptions about how much they would work and what they would be required to do. Over the years, these special constables who were supposed to work on a part-time basis in basic policing have acted as full-time constables, and they should be paid accordingly. So special constable sergeants pay will rise from $5.70 an hour to $6.85 an hour. Corporals pay from $4.95 to $5.90 an hour, and constables from $4.05 to $4.86 an hour. Madam Speaker, we are also increasing pay for civilian police force employees and for the senior levels of the police to levels that commensurate with their duties and responsibilities. Madam Speaker, in one of the concluding areas now, I would like to say that we all know that all of us in this room, including all Fijians that are watching us tonight, love sports. We will celebrate a national holiday dedicated to sports in less than 2 days' time. And Fiji is also an international destination. People love to come here, and we are fast becoming an international sports destination. We will once again host the Fiji International Golf Tournament in Matandola, and we just finished hosting the Pacific Island and Oceania tournaments in weightlifting and swimming. In a few days, we will host the Crusaders versus the Chiefs. Indeed, hosting such events meets not only Madam Speaker, hosting such events or meets not only provides exposure to our athletes and our youths, but it also has a multiplier effect on our economy. As an example, the president of the International Weightlifting Federation, who was here recently for the Oceania weightlifting competition, was so impressed with our country, our organization, our facilities, that he's now talking to our equivalent organization in Fiji, the Weightlifting Association, about hosting the World Weightlifting Championship in 2018. Madam Speaker, we have budgeted $1.9 million to host various other international and regional meets in the 2016-2017 budget. Madam Speaker, we will watch our men's sevens team and our Fijiana team compete for gold, along with our athletes in football, archery, judo, shooting, table tennis and weightlifting at the Olympics in Rio. Our athletes don't need an extra incentive to go for gold, but we think they might appreciate a reward. So we have set aside funds for a cash reward of up to $30,000 to any Olympian who brings home a medal, just to show how the country appreciates their dedication, Madam Speaker. A total of $500,000 has been set aside for this incentive. Madam Speaker, I could not end this presentation on a more positive note than to wish our Olympians great success in Rio de Janeiro. For their fellow Fijians who will be following every move for the glory of their country and for themselves. It takes great dedication, Madam Speaker, and sacrifice to be an Olympian, and a medal or not, that is worthy of our respect and admiration. Madam Speaker, we dedicate ourselves to building a Fiji that gives everyone the right to work to be an Olympian, or whatever his or her ambition is. I say ambition and not dream because, Madam Speaker, Fijians are and must be doers, not simply dreamers. The government will do all it can to create and maintain a Fiji where anyone of good faith and character who perseveres can achieve his or her goals. Madam Speaker, as I had mentioned earlier, I don't want to take a lot of time. We have the budget details publicly available on our website. We have gone out specifically and printed, as I said earlier on, specific expenditure requirements under the 4 sectors. It's available to members of the public outside the room. When you step out, it's available on web page and also on Facebook, Madam Speaker. And of course, the entire budget estimates, Madam Speaker, will also be available online as it was available last year. And we will also be placing inserts, Madam Speaker, of these expenditure costs to go out to members of the public in the Fiji Sun. Madam Speaker, I also note tonight there is an important State of Origins rugby match today, so I don't want to eat into people's primetime television. Accordingly, Madam Speaker, to summarize, Madam Speaker, this budget is focused on broadening our economic base. And government at the same time, Madam Speaker, is committed to creating more opportunities in the education and labour sectors, in particular for our youth, and not forgetting our elderly and of course our disabled. And Madam Speaker, as a result of that, Madam Speaker, if you look at our budget spend, we have stuck to the formula that has worked well, and that is 40% of the amount of money that we are spending in this budget, Madam Speaker, goes towards capital investment, and 60% goes to operational costs. If you were to go back to 2005, Madam Speaker, the mix was 85 to 15. Now there's 15 for capital expenditure, 85 for operational. And what we are doing, Madam Speaker, of course, is building for the future. We are building for our youth, we are building for our young people, we are building for our people who are disabled, and our women and children, Madam Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, it is with great pleasure that I hereby commend the 2016-2017 budget, Madam Speaker, to this Parliament with the approval of Cabinet. Vinaka. Thank you.